Excuse me.
Excuse me. Tell everyone you've ever met right now, 'cause the bitch is back. Yes, the bitch is back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Bitch is Back. And today we have a very special friend and a mentor and a incredible, prolific writer, talent, all-around talent. And I'm going to read his introduction and make him squirm with all the flowers. Okay, Christopher Golden is not only a prolific storyteller across novels, video games, comics, and screenplays, but he's also been a mentor to me and a compassionate director on Slayers, an Audible series told within the Buffyverse. That collaboration with Amber Benson, Buffy's Tara, and co-creator of Slayers, along with Casey Wayland as co-director of the project, shines a light on his ability to translate the magic of Buffy and Angel into another medium while staying true to the original story's legacy and lore. His deep knowledge of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel runs like a studied, compassionate current beneath his work. His insights into the series, its mythic structures, its character arcs, and the way it balances horror with heart and humor are signature talents that make him such a great guest on the Bitches Back podcast. So as we embark on this episode together, please join me in welcoming someone who illuminates the dark corners of Sunnydale and Los Angeles with love, kindness, warmth, and a true passion for this world, Christopher Golden. Hi, everybody. So,
Hi.
I have just a little bit more bragging to do about Christopher, and we double checked this with him, so this is accurate. But here are some of his credits, just to so you all understand the reverence we should be giving this man. So, a prolific New York Times bestselling author. I just asked him, 15 books. He's over 100. Over 100 books. So when I say prolific, it's not exaggeration. Best-selling author of such novels as Road of Bones, help me with this word, Ararat. Did I say it right?
You did.
Snowblind and Red Hands. His original novels have been published in 15 different languages and countries around the world. Christopher co-wrote the online animated series Ghost of Albion with Buffy's own Amber Benson. From the Bram Stoker Awards for dark, character-driven storytelling, he has been nominated 10 times in 8 different categories and won twice. Nominated for the British Fantasy Award and the Eisner Award and multiple Shirley Jackson Awards, winning 1, and recently won the Audie Award. So he's also with Mike Mignola. I did it.
You did it.
With Mike Mignola, he is co-creator of the Outerverse comic book series. Go get that, you guys. Such as Baltimore, Joe Gollum, Occult Detective, and Lady Baltimore. Christopher worked on the script for Hellboy, The Crooked Man in 2024, a reboot film based on filet mignon, Mignola comic series Hellboy. Slayers is also in his credits. A Buffyverse story for Audible, something that we got to do together. And now I just want to find out from you, since you've been, laying around the house and stuff, not doing much, what else you got going on? Which is a painful question to ask anybody. Self-promote, please.
So many things. Oh, listen, most importantly, I'm here. I'd rather talk about you, but...
no, we're going to talk about you first.
All right, but we are going to talk about
We're going to talk about not me, the show. Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
What else am I doing? I have a new novel coming out in July called Carry Me to Your Grave. Excuse me. I'm not even saying it right. Carry Me to My Grave.
Carry Me to My Grave.
Yes, and that's out in July, and I'm really excited about it because usually when I finish a book, I hate it. And
wait, why do you hate it?
Usually when I finish writing a novel, the process has been so physically difficult for some reason that I get to the end and I'm just like, this can't be good. I'm just, I'm glad it's done, but I'm also I don't know.
You second guess it.
Yeah. And I sort of come around I wait for responses and things like that. But this is, I think, the first book I've ever written where I was so happy at the end that I don't really care what other people think about it.
Oh,
Um,
wow. What a place to come
yeah,
from.
and it's so I'm really excited about it, and so that's coming out, and I'm just working on the second draft of a screenplay adapting my novel The House of Last Resort for Outlier, which is Michael B. Jordan and Elizabeth Raposo's company. And I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that it gets made, but just being able to work with Liz and Michael, I said again, like newly minted Oscar nominee this morning, Michael B. Jordan. That's fantastic. And then I'm not writing on, but I've got my fingers tightly crossed because Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill are just finishing up this screenplay for Road of Bones, which Scott Derrickson intends to direct as his next film. So keep your fingers crossed because that
Okay.
would be amazing. And then, writing a lot of short stories, writing comics, doing my thing and coming here to hang out with you.
Thanks for coming to hang out with me. What of those things are you most excited about? Like, how fulfilling is it to write something and have it made and then to potentially be starring somebody so
The
incredible?
weird thing is, having worked in so many different genres and like just again, just with Buffy the Vampire Slayer alone, the number of different mediums that I have worked in is crazy. But working in so many different mediums, writing a novel is still by far the most rewarding because, you know, it's the most you on the one hand, but on the other hand, I love collaborating. I love like working with people and getting like again, working on Slayers and being in the studio with all of you was such a pleasure. So it's a really kind of give and take. As far as the movie stuff is concerned, because they're adaptations, whether I'm writing it or somebody else is, I look at it as something really separate. The book
Mm.
is the book, the movie is the movie. So hopefully they get made. And that will be really satisfying to have a movie made, whether it's good or not, but hopefully they'll be great. But it's, in my mind, it's a separate thing from the book.
Did
So
you have to sign your copyright over to have it made?
if they make it, well, I own the copyright to the novel,
Right.
but then
They license
if
it? Is that
if
how it
they
works?
so they give you sort of like they pay you an option like fee, and then if they make the movie, then they purchase the rights basically forever to do movies and television, et cetera,
In
et
that
cetera.
world.
Yeah. But you
Is
still
that
own the
hard to
copyright to the
do?
book.
Is that hard to do to turn over? No,
No,
you own
because
the
I
book
could you
until
oh well
in
no, but
perpetuity
you
they
still own the book and you still own the right. I could write 17 sequels to something as a book, but so there's a line between,
Okay.
so that's
Good to know
yeah,
for
so
my
we'll see.
future
Yes, exactly.
writing endeavors.
Exactly.
You know what we didn't talk about when I was rattling off all of your accomplishments? I didn't even talk about your Buffy stuff, the stuff you wrote in our Buffy world. I suppose we'll get into it because it's in my questions.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you in terms of the podcast here for the fans, do you think that I should do the Watcher's Guide version, which I was under the impression, forgive me because I don't really know, but isn't the Watcher's Guide kind of the chronological order of the two shows as they appeared?
So in print, you mean that there are I think 2 or 3 Watcher's Guides for Buffy and 1 or 2 for Angel. I think maybe there's only 1 for Angel. So the books do the sort of chronological order of the different episodes, but Angel and Buffy are separate
Oh, I thought the Watcher's
in the
Guide.
book.
So what I was trying to do, or what I intend to do, is do the first 3 of Buffy,
Yep.
obviously, and then when season 4, episode 1 of Buffy
Yep.
happens, then I start Angel,
You absolutely should do that. And if
and then do
anybody
it
who's
as it
watching for the
crossover.
first time,
Yeah.
I always tell them, like, since both shows exist, you should watch them the way they were broadcast.
So what do I say? Broadcast order?
Yeah.
How should I put it?
I don't know. I would
that-
say that's a good way to
Okay,
put
that's
it.
what I'm gonna do
Broadcast
because I
order.
always say the Watcher's Guide.
Yeah.
But, and I think now I'm learning from you that
Well, but
what
the
I think
Watcher's
the Watcher's Guide version is has nothing to do with the order.
Yeah. I mean, when you say The Watcher's Guide, when I'm thinking about the book, because they were two separate licenses,
Yes.
they published them separately.
Right.
But if if you're doing like a guide to actually watching the show, then I would do it in broadcast order. So, when were they? Because then you have those crossover episodes,
Right.
which, were so much fun.
I kind of want to
yeah.
get into that. I want to get into like how you wrote the book, because when we went to dinner the other night, you told me a really fascinating thing where you went to the set to interview us, I guess,
Yep.
because we were always working, and that you had a great story about James. Do you want to tell the story about James?
Yeah. I mean, this story involves you as well, but
Mine's less
basically,
memorable.
I don't know about
Wait,
that.
what happened? Tell me.
As I recall it, so essentially, I was working on the very first Watcher's Guide with Nancy Holder, who was the other writer who was working on the book at the time, and later another writer, Keith DeCandido, came in and worked on it. But Nancy and I came to the set, and to try to get as many interviews done in 3 days as possible. And so I think you might have been the reason the question became so much a part of what we were doing. But I decided, amongst the questions we were asking, let's ask everybody, do you have any scars, tattoos, or other distinguishing marks?
I think that's a great icebreaker, a
Yeah.
great opener.
It's well, I have 2 tattoos and a couple of scars, but nothing big. But it's because you get stories about people's lives that you would never get otherwise. And it's like, you're in a situation where James had shaved 10 years off of his age. So like the birthday we had in the book is a lie,
Oh,
right? So you get
on purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They lied about his age.
Yeah, absolutely. At the time.
They lied about everybody's age, but not mine.
Yeah. So
They don't lie about the women, but they lie about the dudes.
well, no, I think that's the age he gave.
Oh, okay.
Like that's the age he gave them, probably. I'm just
Oh,
guessing, James,
okay.
by the way. But so, you ask the sort of questions that the fans wanted to know,
Mhm.
like, what are these things? And I thought, well, how can we get
Why was I the impetus of this fantastic
so
question?
I had the question on my list, but then
First, let me ask you this. What season were we in?
this was in season 2.
Okay, go ahead.
This was if I recall correctly, the episode being filmed was either Becoming Part 1 or Part 2. So at the very end of the season. And I sit down to interview you, and I said, do you have any scars, tattoos, or other distinguishing marks? And you told this story about being like
Impaled?
5 or whatever,
Yeah.
and there was a
Rebar.
swimming pool being put into your backyard, and you walked into the backyard and you fell in and you impaled yourself on the rebar. And then at 5 or whatever, you pulled yourself physically off the rebar and went inside looking for your mom. And your mom was sitting on the counter doing her makeup.
Yeah.
Wow,
you remember
I
everything.
remember clearly. And then because I was like, holy this story is like crazy. And then because there was no car at home at the time of the accident, she had to like run to the neighbor's house, whatever. I was like, this is an amazing story.
Bleeding profusely.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I would think you would.
And she was upstairs, so I had to walk up our stairs. But I walked into the house and grabbed a bunch of toilet paper.
Oh, I forgot that.
And had to like kind of pack my stomach.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I forget what a great story that is. But yeah, so we didn't have a car. Go on.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
I love hearing it through someone else's.
Yeah, and I was just listening to this story like, what the heck? And so I said, okay, I've got to ask everybody else this question because, and then I started to say, Charisma just told me this story, and I would share part of the story, and that would inspire them to be like, oh, like I had this thing happen. And your story, I think, was maybe the most colorful. James's was the goriest.
Okay, let's hear it.
Which is, and I don't remember.
Wait, why is mine colorful?
Because it has so many details.
Oh,
It has so many like
fleshed out.
Like, yeah. It's like, and then this, and then we didn't have a car and the whole,
yeah.
So, but James is all I remember from it. And I should have gone and checked, but I didn't realize we were going to talk about it. but
Do you
for
want to use
whatever
the
reason, I don't know
footstool?
if he was playing
There you go.
baseball. No, I'm good. I don't know if he was playing baseball or something, but he ended up sliding on grass that had a sprinkler system in it,
Yeah.
and the sprinkler head caught on his leg and
Oh,
basically ripped the skin on his leg up like a sock.
it like sends
Um,
shivers.
and yeah, and so he told that story, and that was horrifying.
Is that like the way you explained it to me at dinner was that they call it degloving?
When it happens, if
With
it happens to your hand, it's called degloving,
ugh,
and that's
where it just removes the skin.
yeah, it just like pulls the skin like it's a yeah, like it's clothing. And
Oh,
anyway, that's the story at that time. But
that's
like I had
horrifying.
just a really great time on the set and meeting so many people. And like I said,
Who else did you? I need to know more stories. What were some of the distinguishing things that Sarah said, or Allie, or who else did you talk to?
you know,
David. Did David have
we
one?
had David. I don't
Did he have a tattoo?
my story about David. I don't remember,
Okay.
and I don't know if I interviewed David or Nancy did. But my story about David is that I was in Robia Lamort's trailer interviewing her,
Okay.
talking about her touring with Prince, which was a whole other thing.
Phenomenal. I can't wait to
Yeah.
have her on the pod.
Crazy. And then the trailer was split, and David had the other half of the trailer,
Yeah.
and he knew that we were in there, so he's like banging on the wall of the trailer to be disruptive, and which I thought was. So he seemed very serious on the set,
Yeah.
but then he
Oh,
got
he's
into
a prankster.
yeah. So then we got into
Yeah.
the trailer, and he's banging on the set.
I always refer to him
And
as like Giggle Boy. He's
yeah,
he's very not serious.
yeah, but he seemed serious when he was
Sure.
walking around,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
But anyway, so no, we had a great time. We had a great time. I really enjoyed, talking to James, talking to you, and obviously Amber was not on the show yet, but she and I later she's one of my best friends on
How
earth.
did you guys? Oh, how did you guys connect? How did the two of you connect? And this is actually one of my questions where I wanted to ask you. You wrote 3 individual comics with Amber about Willow and Tara. Number 1, did Amber have any experience writing before working with you?
Yeah.
Oh, and how different a process is writing comics than novels or audiobooks? But we don't have to go into that. I want to get more into the
Well, I can
relationship you
lead
have.
into that
Yeah.
too, because that's all part of this story.
Yeah.
So, and Amber was really young at the time. There's a young woman. I still think of her as a young woman. None of us are that young anymore, but named Allie Costa, who is an actress and playwright in L.A. And she, at the time, was like, she graduated high school when she was like 16 years old. She was a prodigy.
Savant.
Yes, exactly. And so she was doing my website, and she was doing Amber's website.
Okay.
And so I was coming to LA, and Allie was like, hey, you know what? You really need to meet Amber. So she arranged for the two of us to meet, and we had this lunch, and had a great time. And then I think that night or the next night, I went to a small party at the apartment of Erica Amato from Velvet Chain, and
Love her.
Amber, love Erica, and Amber and her sister and her mom were there. So I met the
Amber
whole
brought her
crew.
mom to the party.
Well, Erica lived right across the hall from Amber,
Oh,
right
okay.
down the hall in the
Yeah.
same apartment
Oh, wow.
building.
What are
And
the odds of that?
yeah, I don't know.
It's just it really is a small town.
Yeah, it's
That
really
whole
interesting.
LA scene.
Yeah, but so the next time I came into LA, I went to dinner again with Amber and her sister and her mom and a couple of other people, and Amber's mom pulled me aside and was like, Amber writes too. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, oh, she's a
Really?
playwright. And I was like, really? So I went to Amber and I said, you got to, I want to read your plays. So she sent me a couple of plays to read, and she was very talented, obviously. And I said, do you want to try to write some comics? Because I was writing Buffy comics for Dark Horse.
How old is she at this point?
I'm going to guess 22.
Yeah.
That's how old I think she was when I met her. I know she's 10 years younger than I am. So that's what I know. And so that got us writing these comics together. And then we were, I was in England, I was in the UK, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine who worked at the BBC. And he said, hey, we're doing this thing. We want to create this online animated series. And they pitched me to do something that was very much like basically Victorian Buffy. And I said, that's too similar, but I have this other idea that we could easily move from what I intended, which at the time was supposed to be like 1980s Hollywood, to Victorian England. And I said, let me talk to Amber.
I'm
Maybe
sorry, you said that you could easily do that? You could just flip it from 1980s
Yeah, I was working on this
to
pitch.
Victorian.
Yeah, it was just,
Like in your mind, that's just like a simple.
it was very simple. It was very, trust me, it was very easy. But so the pitch, it was very easy to change the sort of setting.
Yeah.
And so I called Amber and I explained the whole thing to her. I said, do you want to come
Do this.
co-create this thing with me for the BBC? And she's like, yeah, of course, that sounds great.
I mean,
So
how generous. You're very generous. You're very generous with me. It sounds like you have been a
listen,
wonderful champion to Amber as
we
well.
talk all the time about, and she's been the same for me. Like she's literally,
Brought things
when
to
I
you.
say she's one of my best friends,
She is.
she's one of my best friends. I love her so
Oh.
much. I love her partner, Mike. He's just the sweetest guy. And she's my sister, and I would say of all of the things that I gained from being involved with Buffy, having her as my friend is the best of them. But so basically we went and
You
we
created
did.
that thing.
Yeah.
Now, would you guys go to cons together because of that series?
No,
Or
I
was
think
it
we
later?
only
Because
did.
I remember seeing
Yeah.
you guys at some Wizard World or con or whatever. But I was like, I don't understand why Amber is in the book IO. Why isn't she in the
Interestingly,
other area?
once we started to do, so Ghosts of Albion was the animated series we did for the BBC, and then we had the opportunity to do novels. And short aside, we weren't really happy with the books as they were, but we're going to, at some point in the next couple of years, we're going to republish our versions of those books.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like I always am careful about speaking about, I don't want to put words in her mouth.
Right.
But she was more comfortable talking about the books than she was
Than
talking.
her acting.
Yes.
Well, that
Yeah.
kind of tracks because I've had a lot of conversation with Amber as being I don't see her often, but when we see each other, it's a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of interesting how that works, where you can feel incredibly connected to a person, not talk to them for a while, but then when you get back, like no time passed whatsoever. That's kind of my relationship with Amber, and she's been a tremendous supporter of me. Kind of like you, Charisma. You're smart. You should do this. You should, and always own your content. And she's always kind of needling me, like, what are you doing? In a really powerful, empowering, loving, supportive way. And I find that, where was I going with this? You were saying that she was more comfortable in that area talking about her books. What I feel like happens with Amber is, I remember talking to her about she didn't necessarily want to be the actor. She wanted to be the creator. She's like, I don't want to be the title character. I want to be the person that created the world.
Yes.
Like her ambitions were beyond from the gate. I want to be Joss,
Right.
like that. Not, I don't necessarily, she
But
wasn't
without the
angling for all
Hollywood
the
crap. I mean, that's the thing. She's, even at that time when she was in her mid-20s, she wrote, starred in, edited completely herself, produced 2 independent films of her own, and which I'm sure people can find, Chance and Lovers, Liars, and Lunatics. Then she and
Great title.
Adam Bush co-directed that movie Drones, which if you haven't seen it,
I haven't.
it's so funny,
Is it?
so funny. And they're not in it, but they directed it. And um, she directed Ghosts of Albion when we did that together. We were in the booth together during all the recording in London, but she directed that.
Yeah.
And then we co-directed Slayers. And she's like trying to push me, like, you should do more of this. You should do. So it's the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
But we always talk about, like, when you find the people you connect with
Yeah.
and who inspire you and who, like,
Align
again,
with
like,
you. Values.
yeah, exactly, align with you. And that's why so many times when you and I have had conversations, even the other night, I was like, you should do that thing that we were
Mhm.
talking about, because you don't know what's going to happen. And
I was literally talking myself out of it this morning.
no,
I know. I was just thinking, like, I need to do more procedural. I need to think more in the line of the detective idea that I had, and that's what's going to be
but you
selling
can do
right
all
now.
the things. I mean,
But
this is
I
it,
was
right?
having this conversation in
Yeah.
my head. I can do all the things. And I'm like, but then people aren't going to see me as being diverse that way. They're going to only want. This is the reality. I think of all of us, right? And that's why we are the sum of our surroundings, right? So that's why when I went to dinner with you and I was telling you about that idea that you and I have talked about ad nauseum, that you were like, and I was telling you some of my issues in the story, and you're like, oh, well, this, and that's the beauty of these sorts of relationships that you have with Amber, that I have with you, and
Well, if you have creative friends
and
who,
Gregory over there.
who just have, yeah, your sounding board.
He's my sounding board, and he's also like a champion. He's in my corner. I feel like that
And that's what we are,
in each other's
so
corner.
lucky to have people in our lives.
Yeah.
And if people are watching and listening, if you have somebody in your life or some people in your life who are going to be your champions. I had a friend, my father died when I was 19, and a girl at the time that I didn't really know that well, but was very kind, sent me a note that I'll never forget. And it said, "A friend is someone who knows your song and sings it to you when you forget."
Mm.
And I feel like that's what we try to do for each other as creative people who are friends,
Mhm.
that you have to be able to say, hey, snap out of whatever you're doing. Or if you bounce ideas off of each other, you have to be able to both offer creative suggestions, but also not be offended if they're not received, if they're not taken
Landing.
aboard.
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is trying to keep things moving, grease the
Right.
wheels,
Right.
so that the end result is something good. And the
Right.
final thing on that topic is Amber and I talk about, a rising tide lifts all boats.
We said that last night or
Right.
on Monday night.
Yeah. And that's what I just feel like. And so if something's going well, Amber and I have a project that I don't think I can announce yet. It's a comic book project that we originally were going to do as a film that we wrote the screenplay for many years ago. It's a horror thing. And, recently we had the opportunity to sort of resurrect it as a comic book. And that is great. And hopefully that will do well. But we found it's set in Ireland. So we found this Irish artist that we sought out for that. And so there's so many like things that come from those kind of creative relationships. But anyway, I'm babbling.
You're not babbling. I mean, I feel like the fans want to know the tight-knit. I think people and fans are always curious about what are the relationships, who is bonded,
Mhm.
who is connected, who do you have dinner with, who do you speak to most
Right.
often. I think they really want those sorts. They want to believe that the stories on the screen kind of exist off screen, and it's a little bit heartbreaking when it isn't.
When it isn't. Yeah.
Right. So whenever there's an opportunity to talk about the love
About
and
the
the
heart,
warmth
the
and the
love.
heart
Well,
behind
who we should talk about too then?
who?
Jimmy Leary,
Oh,
right? James C. Leary, aka Clem, like the
he's
sweetest,
so talented.
so good. I mean,
He's
this is the
so
thing,
good.
right? And that's the thing. So to talk a little bit, can I talk a little bit about Slayers, about working on
Yes,
Slayers?
please.
So
We're just going to visit the Buffyverse.
Yeah.
We don't have to stick to, but I do want to talk about Lie to Me.
Yes, so the
But yeah,
only thing I want to
Slayers.
say about working on Slayers, just a
The
couple
only
of things.
thing. There's so many
There's
good
so
things.
many things. What an extraordinary experience it was.
Yes.
Not only to give better endings to characters who deserved them, but also to bring together people in a room who didn't necessarily spend a lot of time working together,
Yeah.
who then got to work together
Yeah.
and see each other in action and work opposite one another. And to bring in Leia, who was so great.
So great.
But I'll tell you maybe my two favorite moments of the whole experience. The first was the day that you performed the sort of monologue-y, soliloquy kind of moment where Cordelia talks about her experience with her sister and all of this stuff. It was very emotional for you. And everyone in the studio, for the first time, the only time during this process, just shut up. Like, you finished and everyone was just dead silent because we all were just like, holy shit, like, wow.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like blew everybody away. And you just said, I think when you finished, you said, don't say anything.
Let's do it one more time.
Let's do it one more time. Yeah.
That sounds like me.
And because I think you were just in it so much and emotionally, and it was,
Really?
and the thing is, and I said this to you, and I think you go into a situation like that knowing that you're with people who are very talented. But when you work in the room with them, you see, oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's so much more to the talent that's in here, that's in this person, that's in you, that's in James, that's like, to see it come out in that way. I thought it was great. And then the flip side, it not being me, was the scene where Clem is being tortured. And Jimmy is so funny. He's so personable. He's so good with voices. He's so talented, and just doesn't get the recognition for that. And
True.
I wish that people would see that and give him a ton of voice work because he's amazing. But
If you're
the scene
listening,
with
anybody,
Clem,
please.
yeah,
You want to work with him. He's a mensch and he's loads of talent.
and the biggest heart out
Yeah,
there.
sweetheart.
And
I talk to him.
yeah.
I send him stuff.
The scene where he's being tortured.
Yeah.
He's like on the ground in the studio. And he finished that scene of this sort of anguish and pain. And it was this sort of everyone in the room. And I remember you specifically, you were like, Jimmy, that was amazing, or whatever you said. And he was like teary because of the sort of appreciation that he
Yeah.
got from the other cast members who were
Yeah.
in the room, because he was like sort of a day player originally, and Amber and I knew him, so we knew that we could get
The wealth
that from him.
The
Yeah.
well of
So I
talent.
just loved that. I loved to see the
I'll tell you a story that I loved about working on Slayers, and that was, the first day, James and I were coming in from 90s Con, which Gregory was with me at in Connecticut, and the both of us flew in from Connecticut. We had to so we were going to shoot on a Monday. We didn't shoot on the Monday because I was sick as a dog. I don't know what happened, but as soon as maybe there was food I don't know what happened, but that night I got on the plane on a Sunday night after the con, so it ended at like 6, got on a plane to come to LA to start work on Monday, and I was on the plane both ends. It was like the most terrible experience. I show up at my best friend's house and I'm like, give me 6 feet. You don't want to be, I've got the plague or what. She's like, what? So I come in and I literally just fever, the whole thing. I was just so sick. Then we go to work on Tuesday, but he had a cold. He had similar, but not quite. I don't know if he had a fever. So he was in one of the booths behind closed doors and I was in one of the booths behind closed doors. And from across the room and between two panes of glass, if you will, we have our scene inside the shopping mall, inside the car, where we're going to go in and attack. and try to catch the enemies by surprise. And in that scene, we never had a table read or any of it, but all of a sudden I'm realizing, do we have chemistry? I remember thinking, do we have chemistry? And I thought, oh my God, I did not see that coming. And I'm really sad. First of all, this was an incredible experience, a working experience, but I'm really sad that we didn't get to do another, because being together in that room, it was challenging to not be able to use your face or to gesticulate, to emphasize or whatever, to solely rely on your voice was one of the most challenging things I've ever encountered, but I welcomed. I'm a like you if I say yes, I'm no half stepper. I am all the way in. But doing those efforts, if you will, like, was one of the most hilarious things. And to see everybody's interpretation
Of what
of
that
effort,
means, yes.
like, okay, you're gonna punch, now you're kicking, and it was just, you feel so self-conscious and silly. But then when you listen to it, you're like, oh, if you guys could only have seen this and how
Yeah.
ridiculous it was.
It was great.
It was really fun. It was like one of my
Emma
all-time.
was really funny doing
She
the
was
efforts.
funny
That
doing
was,
efforts. Yeah.
so funny. And the other thing is like when Leia had to do punch efforts,
Yeah.
she's like, I was
Yeah.
like, what
You're
are
like,
you
no.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. Yeah.
No,
She
it
was
was
phenomenal. I loved
yeah.
working with her and doing our scenes together.
not being able to. You guys were great together. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it broke my heart
Yeah.
to not. Now I know. Now we know why.
Now we know
finally. But at the time, of course, we had no idea why they wouldn't want to, because it was so successful.
Yeah.
The fans loved it, and it just broke my heart, because I
Yeah.
just wanted to keep doing more.
Yeah.
And we already had a plan for season 2. And
What was the plan for season 2? Can you say?
well,
Because we're
part
not
of the
doing
plan.
it.
Well, we had.
Should we
There
find another
was-
way to do it?
I wish.
We
Well, we have to
can't.
get the license to do it, and I don't think
Okay.
they'll let us. But
Right.
otherwise, we would happily do it. There had apparently been a conversation about Ed Sheeran potentially appearing on the show.
What?
Um,
Mic drop.
yeah, I don't know if anybody had talked to him about it, but he's a huge Buffy fan, and
Okay.
he had
I wonder if he'd come on the podcast.
Emma had been in contact with him, and he'd been on. He might come on the podcast. He'd been on. Like there were pictures of him with her at a concert, and then with
At the Eras tour.
Sarah. Probably, and so
Oh,
he
no,
was
that would
apparently
have
a
been
huge fan.
later.
So that we talked about, like, could we get him to come on? And then Seth had come in.
Danny Strong,
Well,
Tony
Danny,
from
but
Europe.
Seth wasn't on the show.
Right.
On Slayers or in Slayers, but he was recording in the same building one day, and Amber had reached out to him originally, and I guess, or it just got crossed wires, but he came in because we were like, hey, we're all back here, and he came in, and I said, or Amber said, Seth, if we do a season 2, do you want
Would
to
you
be
be a
on it?
part
And
of
he's
it?
like, absolutely.
I know, he's so sweet.
So I said, well, this is what's going to have to happen. Kendra.
Leia?
Yeah, no, Indira was the character's name. That Indira was going to be writing music, and she was going to be in a band with
Ed.
Sheeran and Oz. And we just thought that was really like a fun thing. And then we could have just done so much more with the relationship between you and or between Cordelia and Indira, and Spike and everything. We just had so many thoughts about what to do. But anyway,
Oh, damn.
but we had a great time. So
We
that's
had
the key.
such a great
Yeah.
time. And I think that's where, for me, it lands. It was just so fun to watch, our co-stars and, to see, when you're doing an audiobook, you're observing. You're in the scene, sure, but like you're also just standing by. If you're not a predominant part of the scene, you get to observe and to watch people's process. And it was so fascinating to watch Juliet. It was so fascinating to watch Amber embody several characters
Mhm.
that are very different from who she is, to be a monster with a big voice,
Yeah.
to see her do all that stuff. It was just like, felt like camp. It just felt
Yeah.
like theater camp,
But
just
that's what you
really
want it to
fun.
feel like. I mean, even when Amber and I did Ghosts of Albion and recorded at Maida Vale Studios in London, um, the British actors who were, it was, we had Emma Sams, and we had Anthony Daniels, who's C-3PO. We had Leslie Phillips, who at the time was this already a very, very elderly classic British actor, and Rory Kinnear, who's now like a massive like star and all this stuff. And my friend Jasmine Hyde, who we met doing that. They typically record all separately. That was at the time, at least, that was the tradition in the UK. You'd go into a booth, you'd record your lines, whatever. And we didn't do it like that. We brought everybody into one room. Sometimes they were around one mic, that and
So we were the exception.
well, I think in the US it's much more common, but in the UK
Okay.
at the time,
All right.
it
But
was,
this was a UK thing. Production, wasn't it?
well, yes, but
Audible UK?
but Casey Wayland was running the thing with his group, and that was in the US. So
Okay, got it. I thought I was
yeah,
going to sneeze. Well, I think we should probably talk about Lie to Me.
sounds good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Okay, so first of all, yesterday I crashed out.
Mhm.
I had an insane I didn't have an insane. I think I was having a perfectly normal reaction to an insane situation. I guess that's the kind of difference,
Mhm.
the distinguishing thing. There's like, I think insane is when you overreact or have a weird reaction to something that is just doesn't call for that kind of a reaction, like an overreaction. This is what is happening is just a wild time in the world,
Mhm.
abroad, here, everywhere. So then I watched Lie to Me, right?
Mhm.
And that last scene, oh, that last scene in the graveyard between Buffy and Giles when she goes to set flowers on her best friend from LA, Ford's grave. And she's there with Giles talking about how hard it is to reconcile who she knew him to be and who he ultimately became. And that she was sad. And I think it was an interesting writing hook to make it even more difficult or more compassionate. So, like, you can't make him a sociopathic, like, unfeeling person. You had to have the reason be he has this brain cancer. But just a real quick thing in vampire world, wouldn't a vampire be able to smell that he was cancerous and they wouldn't want him to be? And would the cancer go into him as a vampire?
I mean, would the vampire be able to smell and would
Like,
not
would you
turn him?
feed? Like, you wouldn't want to feed on somebody that had,
Uh, I think. Well, I don't
I
think a
wonder.
vampire would be affected
Okay.
by
The blood.
the illness. Yeah. So I don't think so. For instance, if you fed,
Where did I
and
get
this
that
is
from? Like,
listen.
some kind of Anne Rice thing?
Here's the thing, that every vampire mythology is different. So
Well, that's annoying.
yeah, but so in in the world of Buffy, vampires are really different because they're actually not even vampires; they're demons.
Yeah.
And a vampire, by definition, is a sort of disembodied demon who has taken up residence in a human body, a dead now human body, right? So the fact that the body itself is dead means that the cancer is not going to affect them.
Okay. Thank you for working that out for me.
Yeah, no problem.
So she's talking to Giles and just said she wants to hate him, right? Because he was willing to sacrifice innocence, to get what he wanted, which was to serve her up. So
Right.
he double crossed her,
Mhm.
betrayed
His
her.
friend,
Yeah, they were
right?
good friends. And willing to sacrifice all these innocent people to get what he wanted, which was to become immortal. And she says, I want to hate him. And, she's kind of sad about it and turns to Giles and just says, does it get easier? The watcher, the older
Right.
patriarchal,
Share the wisdom.
yeah, does it get easier? And his response leveled me. And I was really waiting. I was watching the show as an audience member, but also I really wanted to know, what was the creator going to say to this answer?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden a vampire becomes undead and comes out of the ground and thrusts himself upon them and she stakes him with ease. And I'm like, oh, so it is easy. And then it's dusted. And then Giles somberly says, what do you want me to say? Which is the greatest answer of all. I
Right.
don't know. Like, it's just, there are no solves for the world. And it makes me crazy
Yeah.
because you want empirical truths to be empirical. You want
Right.
certain things to be true, like good is good and what is evil, and there's a line, and black and white, and everybody's clear on boundaries.
Yep.
And that's nice, neat, and clean. And that's just not life. And so this show is so great at going, what do you want me to say? And then she turns to him and says,
Lie to me.
lie to me. And he said, okay, well, good wins over evil. We can always distinguish the good guys from the bad guys because the bad guys have pointy horns and black hats, and you can.
There's honestly,
Nobody ever dies, and
yeah,
everybody lives happily ever
everybody
after.
lives happily ever after.
And she says,
Thank you. Doesn't she say thank you?
liar,
Oh, that's right. That's right. I
liar.
watched it like a week ago.
It's
So
so you're like,
you know, it's
you're
such a
like,
great
it's
episode.
such a great scene. It
Mhm.
so perfectly encapsulates what the show is about.
Right.
It's blurred lines.
Yep.
It's fuzzy. It's people are complicated.
Mhm. Well, and again, this particular episode is so on point for right now in our world, right?
Right?
And
That's why I crashed out.
yeah, I mean, it's like it is so on point, and the idea that you were talking about, good and evil and all of that, and you think, really, it's a choice, always,
Free
right?
will.
Right. And this is what's difficult about what Ford does in this episode. I think what hurts her more than anything is that no matter what situation he's going through, he had a choice. And that I
Made
think,
the wrong choice.
yeah. So it's way easier
But
to
do you
deal
have
with a
compassion
vampire.
for his choice? Do you think?
No,
Do you? Okay.
zero.
Zero
I'm not. I am zero compassion for Ford. We all go through horrors, and and everybody's number is up eventually, and you
Right.
fight as much as you can. But to take somebody you love and trade them, it wasn't like he chose, a villain. It wasn't like he chose some horrible, and
Right.
that would be better. It's still
Expendable
not.
person. You
Yeah,
chose to.
not even like, to me, expendable. Like, it wasn't like
Nobody's
you.
expendable.
Right. But well, there, we won't go into it, but there are definitely people that I would name right now that I'd be like, you want to take that person? Absolutely. If I can trade that person for,
But what's crazy is they would say the same about us
yeah,
for
well,
their
they're already
reasons.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. But that's, I think, the thing that hurts her the most is that choice.
Yeah.
You made a choice. It's not like you're looking
And it
at.
wasn't her.
Right. Exactly. And
But she was so sad. That scene when they get out of, so Ford stays in the den, and then the innocents get out, and she is the last one to leave, closes the door, and leaves Ford the way he wanted. And she comes out on top, and there's a whole, triage scene with ambulances and everybody, and Willow runs up. By the way, where was Ander? And Angel comes up, and she gives the update, and then she says something about come back later, and like they're gonna get out, so we should probably leave, but we'll need to come back. And they're like, why are we coming back? And she says, for the body. And she turns away from the camera, and you see that she's holding a lot of grief. She turned because even though he was willing to sacrifice her, she wasn't, like, her reaction, either directed or choice, was to lean into the sadness and the heartbreak of that reality. Like he was willing to do that instead of being angry or, well, obviously anger is a secondary response to deep pain, but you know what I mean? Like that's what makes the show so good. The performances
Yeah.
as well, you know, the way it was handled, it was in such capable hands, the reaction.
Well, that whole sort of the vibe for the first couple of seasons especially was all about, um I don't want to get into the like a whole like Judeo-Christian, but it was all about, the take this burden from me, right? I mean, it's constantly like, I want to have a real life. I want to
Right.
have, I want to have the innocence I had before I learned what the world was really like and what my responsibility is to the world, which I think we all feel that way to a certain degree. But it's really well articulated in showing Buffy's constant struggle. I want to go out and have a night
Right.
that I'm not patrolling or not fighting evil. And so when
Why
Ford
do I have
shows
to fall in
up,
love with a
right,
a vampire?
with
The
why
very
am I 16 and going out with a guy who's 200 something?
Can we talk about
Yeah, we can.
that?
But the when Ford shows up, he's from the time before.
Right.
He's from the innocent time.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, as a viewer at the time, I just remember being like, oh, this would be nice to have her have like a nice sort of normal side to to her life. And of course he's a scumbag, and it's um but I feel like that makes it worse, that he comes from that innocent part of her life before she had to deal with all of this, and that feeds into all the sadness you're talking
Mhm.
about. Um,
That was absolutely the correct
yeah,
direction.
for sure,
I feel like.
for
Have
sure.
you ever seen, we'll talk about the age difference and the problematic aspect of that,
Yeah.
but, like, do you feel like have you ever watched the show and thought that the mechanics of the storytelling is off or that is problematic? Or have you ever watched a scene and thought, oh, that was not a good acting choice in the direction that person needed? I mean, you don't have to name names, but like, I'm not asking for that, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, I think you had said that there, you know, in the early seasons, there were some episodes where some were better than others. What were the problems with the ones that weren't as good as the others? Like
Um,
storytelling
you
problems,
know,
performance problems?
if you look back at, um, so we can talk about the last two seasons as a separate thing, but in the first 5 seasons, especially, I just think occasionally you have a real clunker. And when you have one of those, um, for me, it's usually because it was a show that had a lot of humor in it, and it had a lot of silly things in it that were either treated as not silly, or however it was done deftly enough that that balance between
Right.
sort of absurdity and drama or grief or horror or whatever else you wanted to have going on in that episode was really well played. Um, and again, just the idea that you have Xander as a character and other characters who show up occasionally who are just uh, so often absurd, you have to keep that balance really in check. And most episodes, it's done beautifully. But then you have some episodes like, I think Beer Bad, when there's like,
What season is Beer Bad?
I feel like it's 4,
Oh, that's probably why I don't recognize it.
when uh, they're like beer that turns people into cavemen, and there's just like, there are some episodes that are, not as good.
Would
Um,
you say, as a creator yourself, do you have books that that you feel like,
absolutely.
oh, that
Absolutely.
was a bomb?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah,
So
and it's
this is
just
a fair
and a lot of
critique.
it's a
This
fair
happens.
yeah, absolutely, and it's absolutely fair. Nothing. Look, they're not all going to be winners. That's
Well,
always
I'm
the
very
case,
familiar with that.
right? And so there are always going to be things that you're like, you do your best while you're doing them, and
Yes.
you did the best you could at the time,
Right.
but it just didn't really work out the way you wanted it to. Always going to be fair. I have major issues with the last 2 seasons of Buffy.
Let's get into it.
Um,
What are your issues?
My issues is that the characters all stopped behaving like themselves. The
Okay.
beauty of the first 5 seasons of the show is that from the get-go, they weren't afraid of change. So basically, when something happened, it affected the next episode and the next season, and the characters evolved and changed, and in an understandable way.
Right.
XY happened,
Right.
therefore Z.
Right.
Right. And at the time, that was really unusual because a lot of shows, it's just like you had to sort of reset, put the toys back in the box because they didn't want to have that kind of evolution. And so when you get to, and as you're watching these, you'll see this, like that when you get to seasons 6 and 7, the characters begin to behave the way the writers need the characters to behave for the story they want to tell, as opposed to the characters reacting the way that the characters you created would react based on everything you have told us up until now, or showed us up until
Give me an
now.
example.
Well, the best example is, once they start bringing in the would-be slayers, the potentials they're referred to as, and Buffy is grim and kind of becomes very sort of distant from Willow and Xander.
The Scoobies.
From the Scoobies and just all of this. And instead of sitting down with this person who is their third wheel, their best friend, they're a trio, right? And trying to hash it out, trying to make her better so that they can work out how best to defend the world, defend these young girls, all this kind of stuff. They sort of side with the complaints, and at one point they kind of drive her out of her own house.
I heard that. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that.
Yeah. I'm really curious when you end up watching them,
Yeah.
if you have the same reaction I did, and what was weird was, and this is me as a fan,
Yeah.
right? This is me as a fan reacting to it. What was weird was when you get to the very last episode, they all kind of act like themselves. And in a weird way, it underscores how much they hadn't been acting like themselves up until that time.
Right.
And so I just think that, they were serving the plot instead of the plot serving the characters.
Interesting.
So
Why do you think that happened? Like, you're a writer. Like, what do you think why that was, or that dynamic?
I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to speculate. I mean,
Sure.
I would say, again, it could just be that, there was a lot going on. Angel was happening. There was a lot.
There were several shows
happening at once. And so
under the umbrella of the creators. So,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
So
But didn't we have the same writing team, or had that
I mean,
changed?
writers changed, some writers
But the
came,
head
some writers
people-
left.
Was Marty in charge at the end?
I think so.
All the way to the
I
end,
think
right?
so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think so.
can't remember.
Wasn't
I
she a
think so.
constant throughout and became the
She
head
was-
showrunner?
Yeah, if I recall, again, it's
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
I don't remember either, but I believe
think,
so. What's
yeah.
funny is I'm just now doing a first watch of Grey's Anatomy. I've never watched it before.
Oh my God.
And I'm in season 3.
Yeah.
Or I think I'm in season 3, episode 24, and I usually bypass the credits.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I saw Marty Noxon and I was like, wait, Marty? How could she have done?
Yeah.
Marty Noxon could do Grey's Anatomy after Buffy, or what was this before? And I had to go back and see when that episode had aired, and it was in 2007. I was like, oh, Buffy was over in 2003, I believe. So that makes sense.
Yeah, she
What
was
a
working on that.
huge. And Bo Baker, who was our sound mixer on Buffy, left and did and is still on Grey's Anatomy all these years later.
That's great.
They have a lot of our people.
Grey's is the only network show that my wife Connie and I still watch. And we will stick with it until it dies or we do. What is this, season 23 or something now?
It's cuckoo bananas.
And we're
You're
sticking
down.
with it. But if you stick with it, you will find so many familiar faces pop up in one episode or another.
Yeah.
That just
Well, what's the Carrie Washington show Scandal.
Scandal.
So the director is a president. One of the directors was
Okay.
a president
Okay.
in Scandal. And the guest star of a recent episode on Grey's in season 3 toward the end, like in the 20s, she was the first lady. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah. So I'm like clocking all of it. I watched Scandal late also. Like I watched that last Christmas.
Yeah. I love that
I
you're
binged
watching
it.
Grace for the first time. Those early seasons are amazing.
They're pretty amazing.
And
I love the character Bailey.
yeah,
I like
Bailey's the
Dr.
best.
Bailey is my
Bailey
favorite.
is the best. But you will eventually see, I believe Seth shows up for an episode.
Does
Amber
he?
shows up for an episode.
No.
Adam Bush shows up for an episode. I think
No.
Tom Lank shows up for an
Shut
episode.
up. Well, because Marty?
I don't know.
Probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, just
The
very
crossovers are fun.
yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean,
So we don't know. We don't know why that happened.
yeah.
Why
I mean,
the
again, this is
departure
just
and then the
as a fan, as a person who is passionate about the characters and the story from
Well,
the
there's
show, from both shows.
no doubting you
Yeah.
on that. You said that you wrote a comic with James.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you wanted me to do, okay. So I wrote like half a dozen Buffy the Vampire, or maybe more, Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics. I wrote comics about Giles.
Didn't you write 17?
Well, the Angel series that I wrote, some of which I wrote with Thompson Nagoski, was 17 issues. But I wrote a bunch of Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics. I also adapted the original screenplay for the movie, and changed it to fit the continuity of the
guys.
TV series. I wrote, I want to say 13 Buffy the Vampire Slayer novels, 3 or 4 companion, like nonfiction companion guides, the Sunnydale High yearbook, the 2 Buffy video games, and Slayers, and I'm sure I'm leaving stuff out.
I'm sure you are too.
And I feel like Al Pacino,
how?
just when I was out, they pulled me back in.
And I'm pulling you back in too.
Yeah,
On the podcast.
I love it.
And I'm gonna have you back again and again and again and again if you will. We can do it soon too, because
Sure.
I know you're in Boston. But I just had to, like, you're coming to New York,
Yeah.
please come in person. I want to have you on the show. And I also feel like you're an unsung hero to the Buffyverse in that sense, right? Like, you deserve your face to be seen. What I think we may have already touched on this, but what is your comfort content? Like I was telling you, I crashed out and I watched Lie to Me, and because of what's happening in the world, it really, what happened to me was, what is happening to me is I feel so connected, more connected to myself as a creator
Mm-hmm.
and as a creative, just the way I'm observing it. I can't take all of that 30 years on a set knowledge and not look back on those times
Of course.
and observe lighting and observe like all the different things analytically. And then the performances, like I just feel inspired by storylines or things at work. Oh, that's a mechanism to do that. And I'm able to like kind of identify, but then I also feel I'm growing. I'm watching, being a castmate and being in a scene with your cast members. I know we were talking about on Slayers, watching the process in real time and the performance happening in real time, and watching somebody do take to take and all being together is one thing. But I honestly feel like when I was on set doing a scene, I didn't feel that power until the finished product. I felt maybe that I took those experiences for granted, those rooms for granted, those performances for granted, or I was completely not in the scene, so I wasn't aware of the hands that were holding these characters.
Right.
So now as a fan watching, like as an audience member watching the show, I can go back to, I remember that day, and I don't remember being this affected by that performance, but through the magic of that lens, the lighting, the music, that like all of that, it's all coming together for me as an audience member. And I'm like,
Now you get it.
oh my God, this is fantastic. This is amazing. And I just feel so growing so the performances, and then just as a creative and story and being able to identify, and then as an actor looking at it. But then finally, the last part, I feel really like I'm growing my community in a way that is more authentic because, oh, you guys, I get it. And I think they love watching me fall in love with the show that I was a part of, but didn't really, wasn't, I never got it. Like, I never really got what it was, what the magic was, or why it was comfort content
I think
until
you
now.
probably had to have distance from it for that to happen, though, don't you?
Yes,
Because I
for
think,
all the other
yeah.
reasons.
But
For
I
all the
mean,
other
for
reasons,
so many
for sure.
reasons, but also just I feel like you're, forgive me for I don't want to speak for you, but I just feel like you need time so that if you're looking back on this thing, it's not going to affect you. I mean, just from the being on the set watching uh, a scene that was supposed to be Buffy and Spike fighting, and Buffy punches him and throws him on top of a police car. I'm behind. I can see the camera. I can see the
Yeah.
playback. The whole thing. So I'm watching it from that perspective, and I have not spent a lot of time on sets before or after. And so when I went home initially, every time I turned on the television, I'm seeing kind of what's beyond the rectangle,
Mhm.
right? And so I can only imagine that it's hard when you've been there and seen the whole thing kind of being done and the sort of mundane nature of it,
Mundane.
that,
Like
right.
7 different angles, the
Yeah.
same scene. It's an 8 or 9
So it
hour
doesn't have
scene. It
magic.
doesn't have the magic.
Right.
It does take time to metabolize that
It's a great word
experience.
for it. Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. But I think though, it really does make me feel so much more a part of the community. It really does make me feel like a fan, and I really do feel for the first time. So I think I'm gonna have lots of epiphanies about it. But yesterday, specifically, with the world being on fire the way that it is, to have watched Lie to Me really deeply, deeply affected me. Like, I was crying all day yesterday. And I was really struggling to do my work, to be able to be here to film Lie to Me, this interview, to prepare for the interview. Like, it was a marathon day. It was a marathon day because I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't put my phone down. What is happening now? What did he say now? What are they doing now? And just feeling really scared, and just having that soft Giles in his little tweed jacket with his stuffy nature going, it is going to be okay,
Right.
but it's a lie,
Right.
but
Which is
you
why you
want
need
the
the comfort stuff,
why I
right?
needed the lie.
Yeah.
And, I just don't believe in lying. But it that too is just what was swirling around in my head, like
Yeah.
how many people are lying to themselves about what's happening and being like, well, it doesn't affect me, or it doesn't affect anybody I know, or it's not my neighborhood, or it's not going to ever come. Like, I don't have to carry my papers because I look a certain kind of way. Like, so it doesn't, like, how many people are lying to themselves about it? I don't know. It was just messy. It was a messy, messy day.
Yeah.
And I haven't really crashed out like that about the world. And I think it was building. It really was building. So it was a very hard day yesterday. And I just feel so connected to the community for being able to lean into the show and it be exactly what I needed when I needed it.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is maybe the thing I loved the best then and I love the best now about it is is how many people's lives were changed for the better. How many people who saw themselves for the first time. How many people, I mean, I have been at events with Amber over the years, including when the show was still on, and had young women come up to her and say, I'm alive because of you.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful.
And
That is insane.
it's insane. And like, Buffy is queer coded. She's living with a secret.
Yep.
and only a select few people know.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to identify with that isn't on the nose,
Yeah.
but the metaphors
And it's not even
exist.
1,000% the queer
And then
community,
the
but also
Willow
what you're
Tara.
talking about lie to me, about the coming of age. It is that help me be able to take on board the fact that the world is not what I thought it was when I was innocent,
Mhm.
but I'm not alone in that. We're all in it together, and we all have to we all go through this experience of um, learning that the world is not what our innocent selves thought it was. And
Right.
but you can surround yourself with people who are your Scooby Gang, who are the
Yeah.
people who are gonna. My friend Rick Howdler, who passed away a number of years ago, used to refer to it as his Texans. And he would say they were the people who would stand with you at the Alamo, that they were that you can rely on when chips are down. And some of those people are not even the people who are your best friends that you talk to day by day, but
Yeah, one
that
call.
right
I need
that they
you.
would be there for you.
100%.
And I think that there are so many reasons why people reacted so emotionally to the community that was created around this show, but I think that's a big part of it.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about in terms of crashing out because the world is on fire and watching Lie to Me was like a healing moment for me and makes me feel so close to my community is if I were to think about the world being on fire and talking about secrets and all that, like how much denial are the Sunnydale residents living in? How much denial are our
Right?
citizens living in?
Mm-hmm. It is I
The
hadn't thought about
parallels
it.
are amazing.
I hadn't thought about it, but the parallels are amazing. And I do think that in Sunnydale, watching the show, I would always be like, "What is going on here?" But
Is it just economic choices? Like
I
it's cheaper because you're on a Hellmouth.
no, but I feel like in so many ways, the people who are living in the town are just like, if they hear something that they don't like or whatever, they'll believe in anything as long as the mayor and the police tell them that they're okay.
PCP.
Yeah,
They're all on
exactly.
PCP.
Yep, they're all on PCP, angel
A
dust, or
pack of
whatever.
stray dogs.
Exactly, stray
In
rabid
rabid
dogs.
dogs in the
Yep.
principal's office on campus.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what happened.
it is that thing, but weirdly, it seems absurd when you're watching it. But now we look around in the world, and it's like,
Yeah.
um,
Do
there's
you have your papers on you? Oh, well,
there
that
was
one happened to me. Or
a million years ago, there was a fake Saturday Night Live commercial, and I don't really even
was
remember
it
what
about colon blow?
no,
Do you remember that one?
I do. I don't even remember what it was for, but it was Dan Aykroyd,
Okay.
like way at the beginning,
Woo woo.
and at the end of the commercial, he's like pitching it in his commercial pitchman voice, and he says, "Because you'll believe anything," and that's the Sunnydale residents and many people in our Sunnydale.
Yes.
It is crazy.
It is crazy. Well, this is the one thing that I will say about this. At least we have each other.
Absolutely.
At least we have each other.
Absolutely.
At least we have our Texans or our Scoobies
Yeah.
or, to reassure that love does still exist and that there's going to be some dark days, but we get through those days with surrounding ourselves with positive people and comfort content. What is your comfort content?
My comfort content, it
Besides
depends.
the Bitches Back
It
podcast.
depends on the day. Sometimes it's during COVID, especially Friends, which I
The
watched.
TV show Friends?
I watched all the way through during COVID from beginning to end. I'm not a big sitcom guy,
Really?
but that and the other sitcom that's New Girl.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Really?
Charisma.
I'll start that next.
I promise you, the first season's a little rocky, but it is so good. It's
I like
so funny.
Max Greenfield.
He's never better than in this show.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's really good.
The first season's rocky, but then it is so good.
How many seasons are there?
Like 6, I think.
Okay.
But for me, honestly, Turner Classic Movies. I think I mentioned this to you the other night. I've always liked old movies, but I just started to watch more and more of them. And when COVID hit, I got into the habit of every morning while I'm having my breakfast. So I record things, and every morning when I'm having my breakfast, I watch like 40 minutes of an old movie. And so I watch 2 or 3 at least a week.
Nice.
And it's nice because my mother-in-law is going to be 88 years old, and I can talk to her about these movies.
Yeah.
And we took her a couple of years ago on the TCM cruise, which was so she got to
Wow.
meet Rita Moreno and like all this stuff. It was
Wow.
great. And my wife and I are going to the TCM Film Festival this year, and it's just, and I will say that,
I think all great writers lean
yeah,
into old movies and always make references or pull from those
yeah,
movies and characters.
and it's
I think that's
I've picked
smart.
up a lot about storytelling
Yeah.
from watching a lot of these movies, especially about how to incorporate relationships that are, um, there are so many things that were cliche at a certain point and people stopped doing them,
Yeah.
but it's been so long that they're not cliches anymore.
Right.
And uh, I love seeing the performances. I love seeing these actors and following the careers of actors and directors and writers, and learning more about the female filmmakers early on. And Hollywood was founded essentially by women. That women were the writers and producers and actors and directors and stunt people and everything early on. And the only reason that changed is because the one thing women couldn't do was control the money
Mm.
at the time. And so once that started to change, then it became a much more male-dominated environment. But at the very beginning, it was mostly women running things.
Mm.
And
And the storytelling shows that,
yeah,
is what you're
and
saying.
then later on, well, no, I mean, I'm talking about in like the silent era,
Uh-huh.
and then it became much more.
I thought Charlie Chaplin was the champion of the silent movies.
He was, but he was not the only one there.
Yeah.
He's the
But that's the
legend,
story we
right?
hear because,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. But it's a very interesting, anyway. So I'm always fascinated by the things that I learn about the pre-code era and all these different things. I've just gotten into a really deep dive with various actors that now I'm like, somebody needs to do a whole book of just nothing but the great character actors from the 1930s to the 1950s that if you watch old movies, you'll recognize their faces, but nobody knows anything about them.
right.
And so, yeah, it just comforts me. It calms me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember watching Curb Your Enthusiasm with Donovan during COVID.
Yeah.
And I made it my mission during COVID to educate him on all the great movies,
Okay.
all the old, like The Godfather and Space Odyssey, or 2000, was it 2001,
2001, yeah.
and all the Kubrick films and all that stuff. So we really, got to have a lot of comfort content during that time, going back into great filmmaking, and it was so enjoyable. The last thing I was going to say is Tim Minear said that does this track, I don't know her, Catherine Lombard, was she funny?
Carol Lombard.
Carol Lombard.
Yeah.
Was
I
she
could see.
funny?
She was very funny.
Oh, he once compared me to her, which I loved. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that tracks. You watch the old
Yeah.
movies. Does that track?
I think so, to a certain degree. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look at, there's so many. I mean, this is the thing about
So many. But I don't know. That just
yeah.
stuck out to me. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you
Thank you
for
for having
sitting in the
me.
consort seat,
Listen, you
the
know
little
what?
chair.
That's fine. I thought you were going to make me sit on the ottoman.
Okay.
So.
That was not going to ever happen. That's for your feet, sir. But thank you. We all appreciate you.
Right,
And
thank
what
you.
a talent. And thank you, and more thank you.
Always.
Tell everyone you've ever met right now, 'cause the bitch is back.